Welcome everybody, we are here from the Central West End in St. Louis, the capital of chess in America, with a brand new show for you guys. It is Today in Chess, where we will be analyzing and giving highlights of the most important current and topical events in the chess world. My name is Alejandro Ramirez, I'm joined with Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan.
Alejandro, it's great to be a part of this premiere.
Well, glad to have you here. Now, today in chess.
It's all about the candidates in Moscow.
We have to talk about it. It's the candidates. It's the most important tournament going on right now. A wonderful year in chess. This tournament determines who is going to be facing world champion Magnus Carlsen in New York later in November. Fantastic event. What can you tell me about it so far?
Well, exactly. It's $1 million world championship match that the players here and the candidates in Moscow are fighting for. It's really a winner-take-all situation. You have to win this tournament, and then you become the challenger. So everybody in the event started the event with the idea, I've got to win.
Yes, it's a winner-takes-all pretty much, and let's see how they're doing so far. The standings after 7 rounds in Moscow. Now, we do have some results from round 8, and we'll talk about a little bit later. But after round 7, halfway through, we got Vachier-Lagrave from Russia leading alongside with the wild card, Levon Aronian, 4.5 points. Very good showing with both players, very solid performances, but they don't have a clear lead. Vichy Anand is only half a point behind them. We got the American, Fabiano Caruana, 1 point behind them. also Anish Giri in the contention. Hikaru Nakamura and Peter Svidler having a little bit of a disappointing tournament with -1 after round 7, and Veselin Topalov has had just an atrocious event in the bottom 2 points. He's maybe not mathematically eliminated,
But practically speaking, he is.
nobody's giving him a shot at winning this event anymore.
Exactly.
Right. So Maurice has more results for us now that we have round 8 basically underway.
Well, I am thrilled to be here with this new show. It's certainly interesting for us to do this and fun. And look, this tournament is a great one to start with as well. Whoever wins it goes to play Magnus Carlsen here in the United States, in New York City, my hometown. So it's very exciting to be able to cover this event. And we have breaking news. The American Fabiano Caruana has finally won a game, derailing his fellow American Hikaru Nakamura, who is in dire straits right now in a tough position in the tournament. But Caruana had some great games before. He had some topsy-turvy games, actually. Could have been doing worse. But right now, standing in second place, absolutely happy to have won a game. And with many rounds to go, he'll be able to look forward to possibly winning a few more games. So the scoreboard as we have it at the moment, Svidler and Karjakin are pending, but Caruana with that big victory, Levon Aronian maintaining the lead in the tournament with a draw against Anish Giri, who is also yet to win a game, and Topalov and Anand, the two older players in the tournament, with Anand in a good spot as far as the tournament is concerned, but that game is pending as we speak. And we'd like to introduce a newbie to our broadcast, Grandmaster in Residence, all the way from Canada, Eric Hansen.
Thanks, Maurice. I'm looking forward to sharing my insights. Before the tournament, I was really big on Nakamura. Clearly, it looks like I was very wrong. He's almost mathematically eliminated with very slim chances. So far, I've been pretty impressed by Aronian, Anand, and Karjakin. 3 guys I overlooked before the tournament. Needless to say, I'm really hyped up for the second half of the tournament with Fabiano surging behind. Back to you, Alejandro.
Well, let's take a look at how this tournament is being played out. We are in Moscow. What are these guys playing for? How are they playing it? The time control, first of all. 100 minutes for the first 40 moves. Once that threshold is reached, they get another 50 minutes. Once the 60th move is reached, they get another 15 minutes. And all throughout, they get 30 seconds of increment. So plenty of time for them to think, a longer time control than usual. The winner gets to challenge Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. This is a double round-robin tournament, which means that 8 players will be playing against each other, both with white and with black. 7 rounds already passed. We're halfway through. There's already another 7 rounds to go. And let's talk money.
Okay, let's talk money. What do we got for first?
First place is going to be $107,000. Quite a big difference from 8th place of $19,000. But even though there's a lot of money in this tournament, it's the money of first place that really counts. Because on top of this, they'll be challenging Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship. That's going to be at least $500,000 more, as the prize fund is $1 million in that championship.
That's absolutely that, and that's the minimum prize fund, $1 million.
The minimum prize fund.
So it really is about first place.
Right.
Yes.
And speaking of first place, who do you see coming in? We got Hikaru Nakamura, Eric Hansen's favorite. I think a lot of people's favorite, especially here with his style. He's an American. Everybody wanted to see him do well.
Right.
What happened?
Yeah, things went wrong and have not been going very well. It looked to me that when Hikaru won in round 7 against Veselin Topalov, he was going to be coming back. He was crawling his way back into the tournament. But then today, what a game. We're going to be looking at that game in depth, because that really knocked Hikaru's sails back. And practically speaking, I don't want to say he's eliminated mathematically, but practically speaking, that was the death knell.
Well, psychologically, how do you think he feels? I mean, he's the type of player that can be very streaky. He beats Topalov. Topalov had the worst tournament I think I've ever seen.
Right.
And you think, okay, Hikaru beat this guy. It's the second half. He can pull himself together.
Right.
And bam, comes Fabiano Caruana, who we should also talk about his tournament. He's had a very strange tournament going into the 8th round. Some games he could have won. Some games he was under a lot of pressure.
Right.
But somehow he managed to make 7 draws.
Right. Undefeated with 7 draws, like Anish Giri.
Like Anish Giri.
Right.
He finds himself in +1. Second place right now with a couple of results pending.
Right.
He must be happy.
Oh, delirious. And today he played a great game, by the way. I really thought that Caruana showed his best qualities in today's game. I mean, he just kept control, and he reeled in the point very, very impressively.
That was a very clean game, definitely, and something that we're going to be taking a look a little bit later.
I just want to say that before the event, I had actually 4 favorites out of the field of 8. I thought the 2 Americans were going to be vying. I also thought that Levon Aronian was one of the players that I would expect to have been in the top 4, so to speak. And I really didn't see Sergei-Karjakin doing what he was doing. That's been the big surprise of the event for me.
For you, well, let's ask Maurice. Maurice, what do you think was the big surprise of this tournament so far?
I agree 100% with Yaz. Karjakin is a great player. We've seen him win big tournaments, Eric, but to see him from the beginning, I think most people didn't expect him to be the way he's playing now. I mean, he looks like he's one of the ballers in chess, and maybe the one who rightfully should challenge Magnus. What are your thoughts about him? Is this like a sleeper coming in from out of nowhere?
It's not a sleeper, but I think he suffers from the fact that he represents Russia, a stacked country with a lot of superstars, and he's born the same age as Magnus Carlsen. So, otherwise, like he's in the shadow of Magnus a bit. But Karjakin's a guy that a lot of us underestimate, but I don't think it's justified. He's shown that he's capable of winning top events, such as Taida Steel and Norway Chess, which, not a lot of the players here, not all the players in Canada have that killer instinct. Fantastic rapid player, always a hard worker since he's been like a GM at age 12. He's been working as a second or always well prepared. So really, he's just criminally underrated. He's showing that he is a pretty worthy challenger. He's playing very clean chess so far. I think just people overlooked him because of a couple of those factors I mentioned.
Those are good points. It's also interesting to see Aronian, his resurgence. He's been gone out of the top chess, it seemed, for a little bit, at least at the top level, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he wins the Singfield Cup. But it's no surprise to see him in the position he's in now. He just seems like he's calm. He's not in trouble any of the games. He's almost like the Cheshire Cat. You look at this guy, he's so cool. Whatever's going on, he's always going to be playing well and near the top.
Well, he's had a bit of a resurgence. A lot of people counted him out. He had to get in via a wild card.
As well, yeah,
so,
that's true.
In a way, he might have, a bit of pressure on him, but he's handling it very well, and he's really, he's got great chances so far. So it's nice to see because people have written him off as well, and he's playing very, very energetic chess so far.
Yeah. I want to talk, guys, who is this Sergei-Karjakin? We know a lot of these players. Levon Aronian's positional mastermind. Hikaru Nakamura is a player that was so aggressive. He's changed into a little bit more of a defensive style lately. Topalov is a streaky player, very aggressive also. We know that Caruana, very, very good opening preparation. He's also very good in technical positions. But who is Sergei-Karjakin? What is he known for?
Well, exactly. Well, he came on the scene for me in a very strange role. There was the FIDE World Championship match between Ruslan Ponomaryov and Vasily Ivanchuk.
Right.
And one of the players, I think it was Ruslan, invited a 12-year-old to be a trainer in the World Championship match camp.
That's right.
And I said, wait a minute, a 12-year-old? And then I started looking at the guy. And he's been terrific. He got the Grandmaster title, one of the earliest players ever to get the Grandmaster title.
He is the earliest by far, actually.
He's the record holder still today.
Oh, yes.
And remarkable. And he's made that steady progress. And yes, just as Eric was mentioning, he has had some great victories, most especially the World Cup, which qualified him to this candidates. But also he's kind of been in Magnus's shadow.
Yes.
And that's why we don't really follow his results that closely. But he's a great player.
He's a great player. He's won so many tournaments. Even though he's 2760, which is a really high rating by any standards, Russian standards, world standards, doesn't matter. It's not somebody that we talk about so often.
Exactly.
And it's just the fact that he's always been just outside of the top 10. He's maybe reached inside a little bit, then dropped back down. He's never consistently been in it. He's just overshadowed by people that get invited to the Grand Chess Tour, by Magnus Carlsen. It's been difficult.
And to follow up on that, he's also had some results that are really indifferent. I was in Vaikanze watching the games and commentating on the games each and every round, and he just kind of disappeared in a very, very strong field. He didn't stand out whatsoever. It was very rare that I got a chance to actually talk with Sergei because there was nothing to talk about. He didn't deliver in that event.
Yeah, it's something that, I mean, chess fans want to see. They want to see action. They want to see deliverance. I feel Sergei is just such a solid player. But going back to the game of today's round.
Right.
I mean, this is what everybody has to be talking about. Today, chess.
Exactly.
Fabiano Caruana versus Hikaru Nakamura. Maurice, what can you tell us about this?
Well, this game was an absolute barn burner. I mean, this is the kind of stuff we live for when you're doing commentary. None of that boring draw stuff, technical endgame. Yeah, you want to work a point. Congratulations. This kind of stuff is like, go get the king, rip it apart so we can all laugh and talk about the game. And, you know, we feel bad for the other guy. Not for too long. Right?
Not for too long.
So let's take a look at this game. This game right here, Caruana in this position played castles, queenside castles in this position. This was a clear sign that he wanted to win the game. And we've seen games like this before. I think I saw Wei Yi beat Navarra in a big-time game in this kind of line.
Yeah, this line was introduced this year by Wei Yi and Caruana. I mean, I think the point is, if you want to play e4 at the top level, at the candidates, you got to prepare something against the Berlin. And they're trying something new because it is, you know, it's very, very difficult to break. So
it's hard to understand if you're going to play like this against Berlin, everybody's going to play like this against Berlin. I mean, the White's getting vicious attacking games.
Well, there's been, you know, that's true. That's true. But it is a bit risky. You're castling queenside, so you do take some chances. But, I mean, Caruana is in that position. He has to play something sharp. He has to come back in the tournament. So
indeed. We did see a few moves here. B5, you saw the aggressive line, 93, A5. And it looked, by the way, that it seemed as though Black was getting down the board really fast. Bishop G5, even at 2 tempi, sorry, Bishop G5, F6, Bishop E3, Knight C5, and then this move, G4, and both sides storming down the board, Bishop to E6, King B1, and B4. Right about here, I was wondering, is Black home first? I mean, it looks like he's got the 2 pawns down the board, the Bishop's trading in this position, Knight's already here. It's weird that Black doesn't have anything here.
Well, I think, yeah, it is weird, and definitely it's something that Caruana must have, you know, understood or analyzed, that, you know, Black is going to be faster than me, but I haven't made any weaknesses. You know, they're going to have to spend a bit more time cracking open that defense, whereas for Black, they've already played F6, you know, a bit more of a target for White to attack, to target.
Indeed, before we continue with this game, I hear that Alejandro has news for us. Alejandro.
We do have breaking news. The game between Topalov with White against Anand with Black has just ended in a draw. Oh. So we can update the standings after 8 rounds. This is the results that we have so far. Fabiano Caruana beat Hikaru Nakamura. Levon Aronian drew his game against Anish Giri. By the way, Giri has actually 8 draws in a row.
Right.
And Veselin Topalov, well, he holds Anand to a draw. Usually you would say that, well, you're trying to push with White, but the way Topalov has been playing hasn't been that impressive. And Anand, well, he is currently half a point behind Aronian, still pending on Svidler-Karjakin's definition of his position, of course. But a big result for the standings.
That pending result is absolutely huge as we are completing round 8.
And we can go back to Maurice with more analysis of the key game.
Yes, but certainly Anand is showing his stuff as a champion. I don't doubt Anand anything. I mean, I didn't think that Anand would necessarily win this tournament, but there's no way you can count him out anytime he's playing in a tournament.
No, he's a big-time player. He's proven that too many times to count out.
5-time world champion.
Right.
Absolutely. Let's get back to this game. After G5, this move G5, B3, Rook H to G1. Now you're really starting to feel like White is ignoring Black on this side. I think a lot of people would be peeing in their pants if they saw this pawn hit B3 and you're playing against Hikaru Nakamura. There's going to be some big-time attack.
No, for sure. But, I mean, both of these guys need a win, and I think he was willing to take that risk. But fortunately, you know, that's a dangerous pawn, but also you can use it as a blockade, as Caruana showed.
That indeed, after B takes A2, King to A1,
just ignores it.
Just ignore it, make sure it's all shut down. Were you shocked right here? This trade to me seemed very shocking. A3 and B3. I was wondering what he was doing in this position. Knight A6. It just felt like you put 2 pawns in the way, and now White is perfectly protected behind Black's 2 pawns.
I agree. I think, you know, Black probably rushed the attack a little bit too much, and now he's backtracking, and, you know, doesn't look like there's anything after a move like cool move like C3.
I'm surprised. Nakamura is a serious player, a great attacker. What you just said, he rushed the attack. Yeah. Those are not words we normally hear from Naka.
No, it's not words we normally hear, but he's not in the best of form this tournament for sure.
It happens. Well, C3 happened in the game. Bishop to F8, Knight to D2, and then after takes. suddenly he was on the file, and now the move knight to c5. And I really like this cool move, rook to g3, letting him take the pawn if he wants to. No real tactics there. Then e4, and then the game just exploded with bishop takes, and knight takes e4. Guys, after this position, we just knew this was miserable. Look at white's knight.
It's a perfect knight. You can't blunder that. It's on a light square. The bishop's on a dark square. You
And protected by a pawn and the whole nine. Yeah. The rest was actually pretty ugly. I mean, this sequence right here, rook e5, d4, bishop f6, rook g1, a mass of pieces, rook to b8, give me that pawn, and now bishop to h4. This finish, I'm sure this is going to be in Nakamura's nightmares for a while. These moves were going pretty fast with the attacks on this side, but he was able to shut it all down. We see these rooks in the position. Guys, this was just ugly. I mean, this is one Nakamura has to be shaking his head. It just looked like a beatdown.
Indeed, and it did become a beatdown. And I think the critical moment was actually here. This situation where Hikaru essayed the move b5, b4, and this is actually wrong.
Right. Well, explain to us a little bit why the position that we have currently on Yasser's board, b4. We actually saw this being criticized. Why? It seems so natural.
Well, the beautiful part about this position is, as Maurice would say, we love it when kings are on opposite wings. And it's all about getting there first with the most. And in this position, I think the key move that Hikaru should have played was queen d7. Okay. And the idea is very straightforward. So what black intends to do is to play, let me see if I can do this right, is
we can step back just for a second. We're not showing the board right now. Let's give it a couple of seconds until they can, production can get that up.
Okay.
But from a conceptual point of view.
Yes.
Okay. What happened in the game? Caruana said, I'm going to castle long. I'm going to throw all my pieces at you. I'm going to try to checkmate you. And it seemed, from looking at the position, I just saw it with plain eye, Hikaru's attack was so fast. He went b5, a4, b4, and I was like, how can you play like this with white? This guy's throwing all of your...
inviting the guy to kill you.
And, I mean, that pawn got all the way to a2, and it did nothing.
Right.
I mean, how cold-blooded was that?
It actually helped white. It became, the black's pawn on a2 was actually working as a shield. Conceptually, because you said it so very well yourself, is the edge that Hikaru had was he had this light-squared bishop. This light-squared bishop was attacking the a2 pawn. Hikaru ended up putting his own pawn on a2. Wouldn't it have been much better to put a queen on a2 or a bishop on a2?
The dream.
Yes, and that was where I was bringing it up on move 16.
Well, I have it here, guys. We can take a look at it.
Yeah.
This is the critical moment you were talking about, this capturing on a2, and it's a thing we learned very early on, right?
Right.
You don't have to touch the pawn. No. Of course, in this case, you can't actually take it. But a lot of times, even if the bishop's not there, you don't take it because the guy can't jump over his own pawns.
You can't open the file. You can't take his own. Yeah, exactly. So the file stays semi-closed.
Stays shut down, and it looks like it really frustrated Hikaru. I think I heard him say in the press conference back here that actually even back here that he wanted to capture somehow with his bishop and then somehow play b3 and make this work. Something like this. And then play with this and make this work. But it doesn't look like anything's going on. The king just backs up, and whatever you do capturing here, the queen just takes, and it's white who gets an avenue for attack with this move.
As Alejandro mentioned, it's the light squared bishop. You give that up, I don't think the tactics work. That's your good bishop, so, you know, that was not the right direction.
Even with the open lines, I think a big part of it is that the rook's not here on this square, right? Coming down the board, attacking with all the pieces, and this bishop looks like it's not participating. Maybe they even look backwards somehow, the bishop and the knight.
Right.
This bishop wants to be in there somewhere. You don't see the direct attack that's happening in the position.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I just think, what I'm shocked about, it's just seeing how important this tournament was to Nakamura. I remember when we were here was it London? It was the showdown in St. Louis. At the showdown in St. Louis, Hikaru was talking about how this that he was being careful with his openings.
Right.
And that, remember, he was thinking about London, that they may not show all their openings in London because they were thinking so much about the candidates. And I was a little surprised because I thought if you're going to beat Magnus Carlsen, you should want to win everything. You want to say, I'm the man, I'm going to show everything, I'll beat everybody, this is what I do. And I think he put so much importance on this that maybe it tightened him up a little bit, so when he finally got here, he didn't play his best chess.
It's possible, but even if he saved up, it hasn't shown. I haven't seen very good, preparation. This is a line he should have expected and got a pretty bad position. So yeah, that doesn't look like it paid off to hide it.
No, not at all. He doesn't seem like the Hikaru that we are used to. He's the current U.S. champion. He's won big tournaments. He won Gibraltar, right, again this year.
He won Gibraltar, but that's an event maybe he picked to not play against his contemporaries and test those things out, but it may have backfired, really, not being able to get some practice for, in these type of theoretical positions.
Top-level play. And, of course, once this did happen, we get back to the game, this position with King A1. This exchange, Yasser talking about that light-squared bishop being traded off. Bishop takes on F5, E takes F5. Now the light-squared bishop is gone. And, man, this just looks like a fortress over here.
This is already almost a strategically lost position. You give up the E4 square. You give up your good. It smells of desperation.
It really does. It really does, guys. And I think that was a great point, Yas, making that critical moment in the game that taking on F5, that light square bishop couldn't prove itself. And once that happened, Black's pawns were calcified. You can see the bad double pawns in this position anyway with no real ability to attack the white king.
Right. Well, just coming back to a second, because the point that I was trying to make was at this exact moment in the game when Hikaru essayed the move B4, that was where I felt that he lost the thread, and that the key moment was actually to play the move Queen D7.
Yeah, I think Queen D7 in this position, and to me it was counterintuitive. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Queen D7 to me seems slow.
Really? Whereas I was thinking that it looked really brutally fast. So after Queen D7, I thought that Rook G1.
Rook G1, yes.
And then I was thinking about this move, Bishop F7. I thought that this was the key move in the position, so that after G4, you're now lining up with your queen on E6, attacking this pawn on A2, and crashing down over here against White's king. B2, B3, more or less forced.
More or less forced, I think.
Exactly. And after B3, takes. Now we've got an open A file. And now again, both players are going after one another's kings, and it looks really, really, really sharp. Black is crashing through. You have to capture it. Now, White's crashing through on the G file, and one move you have to essay is knight takes b3, right? Because there you go. And G5 takes f6, right? Everybody's crashing through. And it seemed to me that this was the sharp line that was critical. And I hadn't come to a conclusion by the time we came on the show as to how the analysis, how the position pans out. But that was the line that I thought Hikaru had to play for.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem like a lot of consolation. I mean, even that line looks so bad for Black, and even though it seemed natural to sacrifice the piece and open up the queen, it just didn't look correct. So for Black.
For Black.
Yeah, so what happened actually?
Well, then then it's one of those positions where the visual aspect of Black's play isn't real. It's just ephemeral. It just disappears once you get there.
Absolutely. And actually we're going to have a more interactive show, absolutely more interactive than usual, as we're going to have incoming calls from viewers.
Oh, that's welcome. Yes, by all means.
Yeah, they can join in the conversation. If you want to call the number that we have on the screen, 1-314-361-5465. Well, you'll be able to join us here in conversation. You can ask Maurice a question, you can ask me a question, you can say anything about the candidates tournament or just in overall. And we are actually being told that we have a phone call, so we have somebody on the line joining us here in the conversation. Hello.
Hello.
How is it going? What is your question?
It is good. First of all, I want to say Yasser, great tie today.
Oh.
And the question is, how do you guys think Hikaru's doing so far in the tournament as a whole?
Abysmally. What can I
That's
say?
a question.
It's a very, very disappointing event for Hikaru, and he hasn't found good form.
Especially for Hikaru, because I think that out of all the players in the candidates, I think Fabiano showed a lot of tournaments he was going in, he was just playing the tournament, whatever. A lot of players were doing that. I think Giri was also doing that. Hikaru wasn't. Hikaru has been saying for 6 months, 1 year, nothing matters until March. This is the tournament that matters.
Right.
This is the tournament I have to win. I don't care if I lose every single tournament. He's not winning. He's not even close to winning. He's doing terrible.
Right.
This has to be a big psychological blow, not just to the event, but as his career on a whole. He put so many eggs into this basket.
True. He put a lot of pressure on himself to perform here. And the reality is he had a great year, 2015, 2016. Zurich, Gibraltar, not once but twice, the U.S. Championships. He was a very, very successful top player. And he came into this event with great ambitions. And he put a lot of pressure on himself. And I don't know if it's nerves. I don't know if it's poor preparation. It's not clicking for him here.
Yeah. And, well, does that more or less answer your question? Well, we think Hikaru's doing terrible. I don't think there's much to add on that.
To discuss it.
Yeah, we can't sugarcoat it.
No, not at all. Not at all. Here at Today in Chess, we tell it the way it is.
Pretty much. Well, and actually we have a big, important breaking news coming up. I'm being told that Peter Svidler has drawn his game against Sergei Karjakin.
Ooh, a huge result.
Huge result, especially because, well, at some point, I don't think anybody
I thought
he was
Peter
gonna
was
survive.
winning that game. Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to bring that up and we'll start analyzing that one because guess what does that do for our leaderboard? It gives Levon Aronian clear first at +2.
We'll take a look in a second. Maurice, what's going on in the tournament?
Well, actually, they're still tied for first.
Sorry.
Karjakin and Aronian are still tied for first. But Eric, he was getting crushed. I mean, that position Svidler had was all over but the crying. I'm surprised, stunned by how Karjakin, his game against Caruana, he managed to draw brilliantly. But this one here has got to be Svidler dropping the ball because he was crushing him.
Right. No, it's a combination of tenacious defense, but no matter what, these top guys have to reel in the point. It's on them. So things are going, fortune is smiling
This guy's
upon
like a
Sergei.
cat with 9 lives. That position was over. We were relishing it. We were thinking, now Caruana has a better position in the tournament at least. And Aronian probably was thinking, oh, maybe I'm in first right now. But somehow Karjakin is not doing what he was supposed to do. And in this case, it just simply didn't work out. So I feel like when you get lucky in a tournament, it's almost like you're supposed to win the tournament.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do you have that feeling that happens to you sometimes?
Yeah.
You're playing a tournament, you did really well. Usually there's 1 or 2 games where you're like, man, I should have died that game. How did I save that one?
Right. Once you get past those games, I mean, you feel pretty invincible. You're converting your good positions. Yeah, that's usually, there's always, you can have a good tournament, but there's usually 1 or 2 games.
There's usually 1 or 2, and it's usually the sign of the leader that's the one that makes that happen. Let's take a look at the standings right now. Everything is updated. Actually, these results are now in. The round is complete. Svidler with a disappointing draw. He's going to shake his head when he realizes how big his opportunity was against Sergei Karjakin, who remains tied for first. Caruana surging with a win against Hikaru Nakamura. He is now tied for third. They're half a point out of the lead as Aronian with his draw against Giri has maintained a tie for first with Sergei Karjakin. So that's tie for first and second is what we would call that. And Topalov drawing against Anand. Topalov still a tail ender, but Anand also within striking distance. He's had a very interesting tournament as well. So he's still in the running. There's still a lot of rounds, 6 more rounds to go. A lot of chess left to be played.
A lot of chess left to be played, and I think pretty much everyone has 3 whites, 3 blacks. Nothing changing there. Yeah, I think it's a 4 or 5 player race at this stage.
All square and all's fair.
I want to talk about Karjakin.
Yes.
I mean, this guy,
I'm still shocked.
Karjakin is a strange player to me because for me, everybody, has their defining characteristics. For me, Karjakin is defense. He is, I think, hands down the best defender in the world. I don't think anybody can touch him. And that has shined in the candidates. he has had some positions that are so dubious, and he has managed to hold them like it was nothing. Specifically, I remember the game Fabiano Caruana with white playing against Sergei-Karjakin.
Sergei sacrifices the queen
in a difficult position to obtain some kind of drawish position.
Right.
Sacrifices a piece just to push a pawn.
Right.
Forces that draw. Beautiful hold. Today, it was a strange game. At some point, I thought he was better.
Exactly.
But it was clear that once the endgame was reached, that king started to look really bad. It seemed like he was going to collapse. Svidler was all over him. His rooks were going to enter in some kind of mating attack. We'll be taking a look at this game in a little bit.
I still don't understand how Peter didn't win this game. This was more like a fumble than, good defense, though.
And
it had to be.
It had to be. And before we get into that, we actually have another phone call coming in.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I wanted to ask you guys 2 questions. I was wondering whether or not you thought that the winner of this tournament is necessarily the best challenger for Magnus. Who would you like to see play Magnus? And also, if any of you guys are going to be playing bullet games or blitz against each other on the show.
The bullet blitz game, we'll leave that up to production, but it's always an interesting possibility. I am obviously the best blitz player here, but
Whoa, a minute, what? Challenge. Oh, no, we can handle this later. We got to settle this. No.
But as far as the format for the World Championship,
yes,
is this the best way to determine? Is this going to be the best challenger, and who would you like to see? Well, Eric, I'm going to throw it to you. You're going to be the first one to answer. Who would you rather have, out of all these 8 players, challenge Magnus Carlsen, and do you think this is the best format to do it?
For the tournament, I was picking Nakamura. I'm not so sure about that anymore. I think I'm probably going to change my answer.
But you thought he was the best challenger to Magnus, given the result they had? I mean, it's been just a beatdown between the two of those guys. No rivalry at all.
It's been a beatdown, but Hikaru's been overcoming, I feel like, obstacles his whole career, and he's improving every year so far, at least that I've seen. So I was hoping optimistically that by match time, if he were to win a tournament like the candidates, like that's even another step. He's pretty much accomplished everything he'd need to do, and Magnus is the only last resort. Like, keep in mind, I picked him, I want an American win, but he has a plus score against the field. He has the biggest plus score out of all these guys against. He has a dominant record against everyone outside of everyone in the top 10.
He does well.
So this is a big surprise to me, really, because he's beaten everyone else. So, and nobody else in the candidates can say that they have to beat everyone except Magnus. They have other guys they have to beat. So that's why I was picking Nakamura. But at this stage, I mean, this is pretty terrible. Guys like I'm probably going to go with Caruana or Karjakin with his. I mean, the thing Alejandro was talking about, how good Sergei-Karjakin is a defender. In modern chess, a lot of us like talking about who's better, like practically. Like, this is easier to play for one side. A lot of it, because people all have computers. Preparation is very competitive, but it's about who can play, equal-ish positions that have a slight edge. That's a very common term. And Karjakin, he's like a machine. It can be uncomfortable for most humans. He doesn't get fazed by that, and not many guys are like that. And Magnus thrives on that little bit of, taking advantage of an unpleasant position, and then the mistakes come in groups. So from what I'm seeing, Karjakin is actually pretty worthy.
Definitely tough. We should jump to the results of the round, and now we have the standings that are ready. And I have my own opinion on this one as well, but as we see there, you talked about Karjakin. He and Aronian are tied for first, clear from the field, but right behind them are Anand, who lost the game but was able to come back and win, and also Caruana, who finally has won a game, putting him at +1. And there you see Giri, who I will mention as a name. You see the rest of the standings as we follow up there. To me, the toughest guys for him to play, that is Magnus Carlsen, has proven to be 2 names on that list standing next to each other, number 4 and number 5. Caruana has tasted that Norwegian blood more than once, and Giri has a plus score on Magnus. I think Giri has never lost to Magnus in classical competition.
That's right.
So I feel like Giri, although he's, they're calling him the painter because he draws so much, but he's still a tough opponent to beat, and nobody here has defeated him in this competition so far.
But he needs wins. right
You
away.
got to
This
win.
is too
You
much.
got to win.
This
If you're
is
going to be
too
world
much.
champion, you've got to win. Magnus shows that he is a winner. That's just what he does. And everyone else has to show that they can beat him in a head-to-head competition.
And actually,
To the phone caller's question, though, when you do have a tournament like this, the double round robin, I think that's a very, very fair format. Everybody plays an equal number of whites, equal number of blacks. So I think it's a very good way of choosing a challenger. But to also the caller's question, where's Magnus? Why does Magnus, the world champion, just get to sit back, relax, and wait for a single challenger? As Magnus himself had said, he's looking forward to a format where he just doesn't sit on his laurels, but he has to earn his way into the finals as well.
yeah, definitely something we can discuss a little bit later.
Sure.
We have another phone call, actually.
Okay.
With a question regarding Magnus Carlsen, I'm being told. So, let's see. Go ahead with your question.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Very glad to be on here. Yasser, one of the great chess educators, Maurice and Eric and Alejandro, great to see you guys. I was calling in because I'm curious. We've been talking a lot about who has the best chances or who you guys want to see play Magnus. I'm wondering if you have any opinion on who Magnus himself would like to play. How does he feel his chances?
Who does Magnus Carlsen want to play? I can tell you who he doesn't want to play because he's actually been public about this. He doesn't want to play Aronian.
Did he mention why?
Well, he just thinks that stylistically, Aronian is going to be a difficult opponent.
Or a dangerous one, yeah.
Yeah, Aronian is going to have excellent preparation. He's the kind of guy that's going to come in with an army of seconds. You know that Armenia is going to pour money
Right.
until Levon is as prepared as he can be. And I think that if Magnus Carlsen could pick and choose his opponent,
Yes.
I would actually think, well, I mean, Topalov, obviously, because he's in such bad form. But aside of Topalov, I would say Hikaru.
Because of his enormous success that he's had.
Not
That's
only
a-
that, I
yeah.
think that Hikaru, as opposed to all the other players, is not the type of player that will just reunite a whole team of seconds that will be able
That's
to
an important
properly
point.
prepare for a match. He currently is relying on Chris Littlejohn as his second. He's great. He's done a great job. But clearly, we're seeing the problems that he's having. This is a very elite event with months of preparation.
Right.
Aronian doesn't have 1 second. He has like 20.
Exactly.
Like, Karjakin, you know, has the entirety of Moscow behind him.
Right.
Svidler has the entirety of St. Petersburg behind him.
And by
That's
the way,
some
on that
serious
note,
team.
the Anish Gary has huge support from the Dutch Chess Federation. And he's got people just lining up saying, here, I've got a special novelty.
I'm
I
sorry,
think that
guys.
will work for
I'm
you.
sorry, but I'm hearing this, and I don't know if I agree with this. In terms of Magnus, what does Magnus have left to prove? Right? He's a world champion. I don't think he wants to prove that he's the #1 player against the easy guys, right?
That's the point.
I think that Magnus, if he was asked this question, first of all, he'd probably shrug his shoulders and say it doesn't matter, right? That would be his stock answer.
Right.
But the reality is, the guy's been 28-89 in live ratings. I mean,
Right.
he is a dominant player. He has dominated. Yes, he had a hiccup last year, but then he came back and won the Grand Chess Tour. And I think he wants to keep ticking off those "I am the greatest ever" lines, right? This is what he wants to do. I played the best challenger. Yeah, you guys are talking about me against Geary. Come bring your Geary. Yeah. I won him in a match. I want to prove that I will dominate him in a match. Fabiano, another guy who's an upstart, let me take him down too. I don't think he wants, like, you roll out the guys he's dominating against it. Let's bring in Topalov, who's not showing any strength, and also bring in Nakamura, who I've dominated. I've already proven that. Why do I need that again?
I completely agree. I mean, Magnus, he needs to keep things interesting for himself. I mean, the motivation isn't it, you know, a lot of world champions, you know, they lose it. Like, it's hard to stay hungry at the top, you know. I think he's going to go for the challenge. He's in the prime of his career, and I don't think he's afraid of anybody. But I think he needs to go for one of the guys he's afraid of. I mean, that's going to keep things hungry, fresh, and push himself, you know, to that next level.
And if you think about it, the fact that he's even saying, I'm willing to even go into the cycle itself. Who talks like that? I mean, is that a joke? No world champion is going to say, well, you know what, you can just have my title back, and I'm willing to go back and prove once again. Because it's fun. It's like, for him, a challenge.
Yeah.
That draw, remember that game he had against Aronian at the Singfield Cup?
Right.
Where he was offered a draw, and he could have won the tournament with a draw, and he said, no, that's not interesting. I want to win the tournament in style. And he ended up going for it, risking $70,000 first place. That shows that he's the kind of character of a champion. Give me the biggest challenge so I can prove myself. against anybody and against the best, and you name it, I'm going to be the better player.
Right. I mean, chess is a very traditional game, and everyone respects the World Championship cycle. But he's saying you can just throw me in a pit with a bunch of other grandmasters, and I might lose everything I worked hard for in that way. But he's willing to do it. And I mean, we're seeing that in his results. He's lost more games lately than his previous years, even when he was lower rated. He's taking risks. He's trying new things, and he's trying to, you know, broaden his, like, just become, you know,
a better player.
Just overall, yeah. However that would be, that's scary.
I remember
to
Tiger
imagine.
Woods. I remember with Tiger Woods when he was in his prime. Yeah. Tiger was in his prime, and he changed his swing. He's winning every tournament. Right. He said, you know what, let me change my swing. Yeah. And then his results went, choo. It's like, why'd you change your swing? You were beating everybody. Right. And then when he finally got his swing back, it was like, again, and he's back again. I think the great champions really want to test themselves and prove themselves. And when you feel like you're winning all the time, you might just get less hungry. Yeah. Although I have to say, I never saw that from Kasparov. Kasparov was always like, I'm going to kill you all the time. But I think Magnus has that style and bravado and arrogance that you need to be the world champion.
Well, for me, I would say that the two players I think would give Magnus the toughest match has to be Levon Aronian and Fabi Caruana. Of the 8 players in this field, those two guys in particular for me stand out as potentially upsetting Magnus.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, we've been postponing this a little bit, but I want to take a look.
Yes, please.
At this Svidler-Karjakin
Absolutely.
game. What happened here? Yasser, take us a little bit through some of what do you think are the key moments of this match?
Well, first of all, it was one of the strangest opening games I've seen in a long while at the very top. It was an English opening. Peter Svidler was white, and a very topical line of the English was with this bishop b4. This variation goes back to the Garry Kasparov, Anatoly Karpov matches from the 90s that we all watched. F3, E3, this has all been seen before. And we got to a position here where already it's one of these positions where top grandmasters, both grandmasters, are really taking great risks. As we say, be careful about the tiger you invite for dinner. He may have you. Essentially, his pawn on e3 is either a great asset or a terrible liability. It's one of the two. If white just manages to win this pawn, well, game over. Conversely, if this pawn lives, it could actually be a very bad position for white. Once Sergei got in this move f5, f4, I began to have a little doubt. So no, probably we're still in theory. I'm not 100% sure about that, by the way. But
yeah, no, I was
already having some doubts about white's play. The line continued, and now this move g4. Once white played this move g4, I began to felt that actually Sergei's position was to be preferred. This white squared bishop on g2 is buried behind its own wall of pawns.
How can you do that to your own bishop?
Exactly. That's no way to treat a bishop, and we love our bishops. So already at this point, I thought things could easily go south for Peter Svidler. And then this very controversial move, to my mind, g5.
Right.
Once you've played that move, you're giving up a lot of squares. h5, very good move. And again, I'm just, I was thinking before we started analyzing the game that you can see that black is ready to put his knight on d4, and this bishop on g2 is shut out. Let's see how the game continued. Great, you won a pawn.
Well,
the a7 pawn.
There is the saying that if you're going to suffer, at least don't suffer for free. And
exactly.
He's got a pawn at least, something to show in the position.
But boy, it's not much of a compensation in my view.
And after the move h3, this is one of the most baffling positions, I think, probably in the tournament.
Yes, that's right.
This is a very strange situation, very unusual.
Yes.
I think every grandmaster and their pets wouldn't consider taking on h3.
No.
The bishop on g2 is completely dead.
Right.
Absolutely no chance of bringing it back to the game.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
Ever. There is no conceivable way that you're going to bring it back.
Right.
And Sergei Karjakin trades it.
Well, That was really, that took me back as well. I didn't understand that at all. I would have left the whole kingside situation alone personally. 100%. And I would, and I would definitely have tried to put my knight on the d4 square. And if black manages to achieve that, well, we just sign score sheets. It's just a positional. It's just positional domination.
Jumping in quickly, guys. Just as you asked the question, we decided to go look up the theory in this position. And right here, in this position here, Queen A4 was the novelty. This move is a new move amongst all the moves. Queen to B3 had been tried. C takes D5 had been tried. But right here is where the novelty was. Queen A4 trying to get him out of theory, and that's where it proceeded from here. As we know, the game continued with H6 takes, and knight E4, where you guys are with the idea of F5 and F4 happening. But the queen on A4 instead of on the B3 square is where Svidler made that little twist.
So they were
in the
definitely
opening.
in some preparation.
They were definitely. Svidler definitely came to play with this one twist.
Thank you, Maurice. So anyway, we come back to this situation. Our game at hand. That was where you and I are total agreement. Bishop takes H3 was a real surprise move. Let white keep that pawn on H3. Let white keep his light square bishop was what I was thinking. And I'm sure Sergei either A, underestimated the move Queen E5, or B, just felt that in the game continuation, he was going to have the better chances. And in that case, he made a horrible misjudgment. Oh, because it's amazing how quickly this endgame turned.
Right here, this position. Let's say that I gave you a white pawn, and I say you can put it on H3 for free.
No, thank you.
No, thank you, right?
No, thank you. Oh, my goodness. Give me a white pawn and let me put it on D5. And yes. But now, and instantly, by the way, Peter Svidler took advantage of the situation to trade these light square bishops. And suddenly the game is quite unclear.
Very unclear.
And as the game continued, I already started to like white. Just about these parts right here, after this move D5.
That knight on E4 becomes such a monster in this position, it's controlling so many squares.
And as soon as white starts supporting advances like D6, C5 as well as D6, bringing his rook to B1, it's white's king actually that's looking really good. White's king's ready to come up the board and munch this pawn on H4, and suddenly Sergei was thrown backwards, and as we see the game continuing, this was actually a key moment right here. And I think that was about the time that we were all having breakfast together, looking at the game, seeing how it was going. And we were actually, at this exact moment, finding forced wins for white. And we loved this move.
G6 seemed like such a fantastic move. After G6, black's king looks like he's in the middle of nowhere. Very dangerous position.
And white's pieces are just swarming all over black's king. So I'm really curious as to how Peter managed to blow this position, because it just looks so very, very attractive. Now already at this moment, played this interesting move, rook h5.
Which apparently was liked. I think Maurice was liking this idea of playing rook h5.
Really?
Yes.
I'm an old pawn grabber. I'm just thinking to myself, what's holding up this f4 guy?
They're not going away. I think rook h5 is a good way to start. But after knight e7, perhaps
this is a key moment. Then you think this is where it's critical, right here.
Something along these lines. I think that white had to improve his position.
In the game, rook takes h4. That looks very reasonable.
But I'm not so thrilled about this, actually.
You're threatening mate in 1.
It's tempting to threaten mate in 1, I get it, but the pawn on h4 wasn't going anywhere, and I think the pawn on e3 was just more valuable.
So in other words, you want to take on, I wanted to take on f4, so let's try it. Why didn't he take on f4?
Right, taking on f4 at this juncture I think was very strong.
And after rook takes a2, maybe something of the nature of rook e4?
Rook g5 also comes into consideration, threatening rook f7.
Rook g5? Oh, I mean, this is maybe a problem in Peter's position. He has too many good choices.
Too many good choices, yeah.
Whereas he just needed one clear line for victory.
And he was unable to find it because clearly it finished also suddenly, in my opinion. Rook g takes h4, And somehow Karjakin, being the defender that he is, managed to consolidate his position, put a knight on g6. Now the rook's under attack, had to move. Rook g4 is no other choice. Knight is much better placed on f8. It's controlling a lot of more squares. Rook takes f4. It's not hanging, and now after rook takes a2, suddenly there's enough counterplay.
Well, big time counterplay. Check this out. I mean, this pawn on e2 is going. If you don't mind, I'll just go back a few moves to this moment.
Before we go back into that, and we'll continue analyzing this position, but I'm being told that actually Maurice wants to jump into the conversation.
Don't let him do it.
Well, you know, it's great. We're in the golden age of chess commentary and analysis and learning, because we always have the computer that can help us out. You're looking for moves, looking for ideas, even the top players, and when they're doing commentary, they're missing moves as well, and the engines are like, come on, guys, let's settle the argument. In this position, this was the blow. Rook to e5, not the most intuitive move in the position, but he could have played the move rook to e5 and making sure this rook is frozen on a7, because he can never allow the move rook down to e7, and this knight can't go to d7 or anything. So he's pretty frozen here, and the engines are saying just bad for black, dead loss. In fact, if we go over one line like rook to c7, maintaining the line, now suddenly knight f5, and you're starting to get a little feeling of some checkmates starting to come around in the position. Knight f5, then the engine gives king to h7 as potentially the best choice, and now the move knight to e7. We all know this formula. This one is looking really bad, and he's preparing also to take the pawn on this square. He can trade off. Mate threats are in the position potentially with rook h5, and that's the way to play. Rook e5, I got to say, we will look at a lot of moves, but we won't look at rook e5 first. I think right here, you want to grab a pawn. You want to take this one almost automatically, but to play rook e5 as your first choice, that's high level, and I think that missing this line, going ahead and taking the pawn on f4, which was not considered the best move here and allowed him to get this repetition, was the problem. And poor Peter, I mean, it's like Sergey is a cat. Right. He's just ducking and dodging and wiggling out of these positions. The game against Caruana he was in trouble. He managed to do genius defense, give him credit there. But he's really been amazing in holding up these games that it looks like he was losing.
It really has been, but Svidler really, should have seen this. Rook e5. And I think what he encountered was, for example, after rook e5, black has to keep the rook on the 7th. You didn't see him move further than that because white still isn't threatening to take on f4. Knight g6 is a threat. So he needs to find one sort of waiting move after. And, he might have been second-guessing himself.
But I mean, c5 is possible. You can push the a-pawn because the rook can't leave.
Right.
You'd have to feel like you're making progress in this position in a serious way because his position is just not untangled as yet. You're wondering what to do with the black pieces.
I can't really explain it because what happened, it just became drawn so quickly.
I mean, ridiculous.
when you see the horizon that it's either like going to be drawn in a couple moves or I might even take a risk. Let's say it's even risky to do this. He's got to do that. This is his chance. He's been pushing the whole game. He messed up against Fabiano, so that's really a shocker, that the variation he played. I mean, you just got to find some way to play on. There's definitely tension in this position. It should not just fizzle out to a draw.
And it looked like he had time on the clock as well.
It looks like he's second guessing himself. I just can't see the win, and it almost seems psychological, for a player of that caliber.
If I can interject, because rook e5, very good move and everything, but why don't you play the human move after the move knight e7? Why didn't Peter Svidler play the human move? Rook takes f4.
No, back then it was a strong move as well. Rook takes f4 is the best move in this position, too. This was easy. This didn't even need an engine. Rook takes f4 was also strong. Yes, absolutely.
Throw it out.
Thanks for the pawn.
Easy.
Yeah, that was easy, too. Give me the pawn, and I'm big.
So what happens
big time
after...
edge. And if you take, but even here, he could still take on this square, and you still have to.
Rook e4.
Rook e4, move the knight away.
Rook e4, and then you chase the knight.
And then you take on e3.
Yeah. That was even the easy way. He missed that too. It's a very good point. He missed easy stuff under the pressure. Again, you talk about world champion. When you're trying to become world champion, it's almost like you have to not think about becoming world champion. You have to think, forget all that. I'm just playing a chess game. We're going to play. We'll see what happens next. When you get that pressure on you, like, oh my God, I'm playing for this title. I could be a challenger. My life could change, right? Sure. You put all these thoughts into your head instead of just playing chess, and then you miss moves like you said. Yes, rook takes f4. He probably would have played that in blitz.
Absolutely. We would all play bet and blitz.
Well, let's talk about Svidler. I mean, Svidler is one of those players that, coming into the tournament, nobody gave him the favorite. Let's put it that way. But he made a very good point. In one of the interviews here in this tournament, he said, everything seems to be going well. The preparation has been great. Positions are fantastic. But the actual playing chess is not going so well.
Yeah.
And you can see that over and over in Svidler's games. He gets good positions. He's unable to convert. Let's think about how many that's happened. Hikaru Nakamura and that Slav. He was with black pieces.
Right.
Fabiano Caruana, winning position.
Easy.
Winning position today against Karjakin. That's 1.5 points. And we can
those are 3 games.
Those are 3 games. Let's take a look at the standings right now after 8 rounds. See how we're doing. And how would that have affected Peter Svidler? Svidler has 3.5. If he had converted that,
Point and a half.
He's
looking at 5.
He's looking at 5. He will be tied with Aronian as he puts Karjakin out of the 5 points himself.
Precisely.
I mean, he had the positions to do it.
Exactly.
He's just not been able to convert.
What's the old expression? The hardest thing in chess is to win in one game.
And
boy,
it seems
in
to be
Peter's case,
killing Peter in this position.
He's just not winning those points that he has on the board. I mean, today's winning position. Okay, that rook e5 move was a very nice computer move that just freezes black, no question about it. But human players will take rook takes f4 and just get rid of those 2 pawns on f4 and e3.
Yes.
That's easy.
I absolutely agree. We have a special segment for you guys. We call it Beyond the Board. It's going to be a little bit different, a little bit more casual. We're going to be taking a break here and leaving you guys with this segment. We'll be back soon.
Denny, what's your favorite part about this sport?
I think the strategy.
How much do you hate to lose?
I don't like it at all.
What about being second guessed?
I don't like that either.
Well, if I were you, I wouldn't have moved that rook. Checkmate. Sorry.
Whether you've played chess for years or never before, come experience all the sport has to offer at the world-renowned Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis.
You could fly to Venice or Paris or even Copenhagen. You could fly all over the world. But why? When you could just come to St. Louis. Your trip begins at ExploreSt.Louis.com.
Guys, it's an awesome year for American chess. At least that's the way I feel it. We have 2 players right now playing the candidates. We have excellent chances here going into the Olympiad. But more importantly, the World Championship is coming here to New York, allegedly, in November. What do you guys think about it?
I think it's been a great year. It's going to be a great year for chess, and it has been very good. What's happening in St. Louis has just been extraordinary, and our U.S. championships are the envy of the entire world.
I think it's great. I mean, the candidates, first of all, the candidates of a spectacular event. You got 2 Americans in there. Wow. If we could just get one in, sneak somebody, Fabi or Naka, somebody, please. Just become the challenger. That would be unbelievable. Awesome. I mean, Fischer was the last one. Fischer, I know you played in some of
candidates. It was actually Gata Kamsky that got to the challenger race against Anatoly Karpov, and that was exciting. Karpov won, but it was a tough match.
And that was debatable, too, because it wasn't like the official one.
Right.
There was the split championships. This would be like the hardcore, legit challenger for the title.
Yeah.
For the unification.
No, for me, since I've started playing chess, the World Championship has never been close by in North America, so I think this should really, cause a bit of a boom, and I'm just really excited that it could be so close by. But an American challenger, I think, could inspire a lot of the, young kids and get the numbers out just like how it used to be.
That's a heck of a point. That's a heck of a point because 95, I mean, we're slightly older than this. But 95, we go that match in the World Trade Center.
Brilliant. Anand versus Kasparov. It was just fantastic.
But that was 95.
I mean, that's
Yasser is 20 years.
That's when you guys started to play chess. The first time I moved the chess piece.
Wow.
That was a very long time ago, and I'm happy to see new developments coming here into America. I mean, the U.S. Championship is doing such a boom to hear the local chess. And you can see it. What a tournament it's going to be. I mean, we're talking about the World Championship. Let's talk about the local championship we have here.
Right.
3 top 10 players coming in.
That's insane.
No, I mean, in the history of chess, U.S. chess history, I'm thinking Fischer, Reshevsky were 2 guys in the top 10. God and myself at one time were 2 guys in the top 10. America's going to have 3 guys. We have 3 guys in the top 10.
And then playing in the national championship.
Remember
when the Soviet championships was almost like a world championship?
Absolutely.
Because they were like, it's like ridiculous names. Your Smyslavs and your Tals. It's like, what the heck, right? They're just playing to show that they're the cream of the crop. Right. And now we have 3 guys who legitimately could contend against Magnus.
Absolutely.
Fabi has a great score against Magnus. He's proving that would be a match. I mean, seriously, Fabiano versus Magnus. Come on.
But you would like that more than Hikaru against Magnus.
Well, I mean, Hikaru doesn't exactly have a great record against Magnus.
On paper, Fabiano has beaten Magnus a lot more times, but
let's consider this. Bobby Fischer never beat Boris Spassky before they played in 1972. Bobby Fischer had a horrible record. In comes Hikaru. Now he knows if he's the challenger. By the way, guys, he's playing so poorly in this tournament, he's not going to make the challenger. We better hope that Fabi makes it. But I'm just saying, 3 guys in the top 10, legit. But then think about the young kids. Sam Shanklin.
Sam Sevian. Jeffrey Jean. I mean, he's a monster.
Daniel Naroditsky.
John jumped past.
He's like 26, 25.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Hayden Trofe.
He jumped past Trofe, Sevian.
No, yes, Jeffrey Jean is a beast.
It's a beast. I mean, he's coming into the U.S. Championship with that 26-20, 26-25 rating.
Yeah, he's going to be a little baby shark. Where'd he come from? Where'd he come from? No, he's serious.
Well, he was in Canada like a year and a half ago. He's 24-40, and he was playing a tournament. So that's just the math.
I mean, I've been playing this guy for 10 years since he was 1500.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've seen him. I've seen him improve. He's doing amazing, and imagine what he's going to do to bolster an Olympic team. Which, by the way, yes, we have a candidates tournament. Yes, we have a world championship match. We have an Olympic year.
Yeah,
I mean, it's such a big tournament,
team.
and this is, I think, the first year where we can say America is one of the favorites to actually take the whole thing.
If we don't medal, then it's
a big disappointment.
You know, it's like being a Yankee fan. You know, a New York baseball Yankee fan. If we don't, when we make the playoffs, it's like, please, are you serious? We got to win the whole thing. Right. And this is what this team is about. This team thinks they can win it, and anything less than gold would be somewhat of a disappointment, which is bizarre for the U.S., but wonderful. I think it's a great boom. And if you got a youngster like Jeffrey Zhang and all those young players coming up. By the way, Jeffrey showed up in Millionaire Chess. You remember, he had this fantastic run where he beat these GMs, and he was at the top. That's the first time I saw him, and his demeanor was just ice cold.
Right.
Like, I don't care who you are. I'm coming to win. And that's a great thing to see so many young players, like you said. Sam, of course, Sam Shanklin is there, but you've got Sam Sevian.
So many young people. Ray Roslin, let's not forget about him.
Here from St. Louis. Yeah. Our junior team is beastie.
It's amazing. We're going to have such a fight for our 4th board and 5th board coming up. Maybe not this Olympic year, but imagine for about 2 years, Georgia 2018. Wow, that's going to be such a team. And it's just looking like American chess is in a great state, and it's moving forward.
Exactly.
We haven't even mentioned the Sinkfield Cup. I mean, wow. Right? I mean, we're talking here about great premier tournaments in the U.S., and the stuff that's happening. We haven't even mentioned the Sinkfield Cup, the fact that our guys are also playing on the
chess tour itself.
The whole chess tour, the fact that we still have Americans playing in the chess tour, the new chess tour. I think the point, American chess, whatever is good for American chess is good for world chess. Because we've been waiting to see a real growth on this side of the pond. Europe's got it, but it's kind of stagnated. And I think everybody, Kasparov tried for many years to get something happening here in the U.S., but just somehow it's organic, or it's the investment of people who are interested in the idea and the vision. Certainly, Sinkfield has been a huge part of it. And suddenly, American chess is just looking on the rise.
We're definitely in a golden period. I mean, I started playing chess in 1972 as a result of the Bobby Fischer Boris Spassky match. I'm part of the Fischer boom. And from that period to today, I think we are in a much better golden period right now, and with the internet. Let's not forget what that effect it has in terms of raising the awareness of chess. You know, it's just great.
Now I'm curious.
What a wonderful time to be
American
a
chess
world
is great right now. Who are we going to be competing against? Is it still going to be the Russians?
Chinese, man.
The Chinese. Everybody's talking about that Chinese.
Oh yeah, and the Indians. Both nations are just.
You talk about
fantastic.
2 years from now. I mean, we better hurry up too, because those Chinese players are crazy.
We see Russia struggles.
Crazy good, I mean.
Yeah, but Russia struggles every Olympiad, even though they're always the top rated. So even with that said, there's a lot of other teams that could still pose problems. It could, this chemistry still has to work for the team.
Yes,
absolutely. Russia's had 3 top 10 players in the team all the time, and they had abysmal results. So I don't think anything's a given, but it's good that they're having more and more events on American soil, so the players get to know each other, compete against each other, analyzing each other, but, hopefully some good relationships come up. But I don't think there's any guarantee with the ratings. I think that'll be still the most important thing is the chemistry.
I get the last word. The last word is collegiate chess, too. Don't forget that this period of time, universities and colleges across the United States are actually giving scholarships for chess.
That's crazy. Amazing. We got
Slough
University
coach right here.
That's right, and we're going to be starting in fall of 2016, hopefully with a 4 or 5 Grandmaster team in St. Louis competing with another team in St. Louis, Webster University, who has their own slew of Grandmasters. It's going to be an amazing year. Collegiate chess is on the rise. American chess is on the rise. Guys, it's been pretty interesting. I can't wait to see what happens in the candidates, in the Olympiad, and in the World Championship.
I'm Mike Matheny, manager of the Cardinals and Chess Fanatic. Many people don't know that St. Louis has a chess history as rich as its baseball. At the world-renowned Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis, across from the World Chess Hall of Fame, our goal is to teach, play, and promote the sport. Come to the Central West End and experience all that chess has to offer. Hi, I'm Mike Matheny. Whether you play chess for fun or want to boost your child's academic performance, come visit the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis, right here in the chess capital of the U.S. From a welcoming, diverse environment to a scholastic outreach program, now in over 100 schools, our center, across from the World Chess Hall of Fame in the Central West End, has it all. So whether you've played for years or never before, we invite you to experience all chess has to offer.
We're back here with Today in Chess. We're joined by Grandmasters Yasser Seirawan, Maurice Ashley, and Eric Hansen. We're discussing the Candidates Tournament today, a very important round, and we just left off with Peter Svidler surviving, well, not surviving.
Sergei-Karjakin
surviving against Peter Svidler. And let's see how that affects the standings, as we have just completed round 8 in Moscow. Sergei-Karjakin and Levon Aronian both tied for first with 5 points each. Now they're being trailed by 2 players, half a point behind. Vishy Anand and Fabiano Caruana definitely in striking distance. Anish Giri is 1 point behind. And now Peter Svidler, what a disappointing tournament for him, especially because of the type of positions that he's gotten. 3.5 points, even worse. Hikaru Nakamura, 3 points out of 8. He looks really out of contention by now. And wrestling Topalov, well, he just can't wait until this tournament is over.
Alejandro, I really strongly feel after this round, most especially, that the challenger is going to be one of the top 5. Full stop. I mean, okay, it's boldly stating the obvious.
But dash me, Yasser.
But those 5 guys, I think Anish Giri has been drawing his way out of the tournament, but he's still lurking. Okay, 1-2 good results, and he's right in the thick of things. But right now we're talking about 5 players out of the 8-player field.
Yeah, I think that for 3 of them,
practically eliminated.
It just seems practically eliminated at this point. Maurice, do you agree with that?
Wow, Yasser. I mean, is it cold outside? Seriously, I think I'm going to go out a bit more on a limb, and I'm going to say top 3 on that list. If we would bring that list up again, I think it's all about hunger right now. It's who wants it the most. And I think that Karjakin, I mean, he looks like there's a Star of David over him somewhere. Somebody's praying for him and dropping some holy water on that guy because he should have lost 2 points already. Aronian looks very smooth, absolutely quite smooth. And although, I'm looking at Caruana on that list, I'd flip the list. I'd say that Caruana, to me, is hungrier than Anand in this moment. But I can't count Anand out. I can't see Giri. Every time we look at Giri, it just looks like he should be able to pull this off somehow. Somehow he should be able to get it done. But he just keeps drawing, and he just keeps drawing. It's like he can't come out of the shell of himself, and he somehow manages to only draw maybe +1. Somebody said he's never won a big tournament, and I can't think of any big tournament he's won. So I don't think I can include him on the list right now, even though he's not losing to these guys, but he's not winning. And he's got to be the hungriest guy. And I think also he's not hungry yet because he's only a youngster, and he still has two more cycles, 3 more cycles to do it. And I feel like it's those other guys, definitely Aronian, he's starving for a chance. Yeah. He's starving. He's going to get too old in a second, and got all those guys coming behind him. Karjakin, always the one, never the bridesmaid, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And certainly Caruana, who can feel like it's his time right now. Well,
Caruana fought like a dog yesterday, surviving against Svidler. That was a very necessary, hold. Even though, he made it as tough as possible for Svidler, And then today, winning. So he did what he had to do to just stay relevant. I agree that, he's showing a bit more than Anand right now in terms of desperation. But Anand is showing really good preparation. I agree, Giri just seems too comfortable. He's getting good positions, but the games aren't, he's not pushing them.
You got to win.
Fourth, but they're not even going to the, 5th, 6th hour a lot of the times. True. Playing out maybe even blatantly equal positions, I was reading the comments yesterday, and he was afraid of Vichy's computer in a certain position that he wasn't familiar with. And, I'm not sure that mindset is enough to...
It can be the mindset. You remember Peter Leko? Yeah, Peter Leko was also a player who drew a lot of games, and people call him the Drawmeister. He had one shot at winning the title against Kramnik. It didn't happen, and now he's faded. Now he's gone. And this is precious. There are players who could have had a chance this close to the title, always there but never quite making it, and then suddenly your chances evaporated and you're done. So I'm afraid Giri's going to have to find something else to get into gear for these kind of tournaments so that he can show his stuff, show what he's made of. And he's clearly a top player. He's clearly one of the best on the planet, no question about that. He's not losing to these guys, but you've got to be a winner if you're going to win this kind of event.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I have Caruana, Aronian, and Karjakin as the guys who seem to be the hungriest so far. Tenacious defense and good conversion so far.
Well, speaking of conversions, I want to go back because we haven't looked at the games from previous in the tournament.
Yes.
And there are some key moments to me in this event that just have to be mentioned.
Absolutely.
And we can even go, I think, even round by round. And
there's so many critical moments. What ifs?
What ifs? And to me, there have been many. But Fabiano Caruana, I think, is a player that he's seen himself in a couple of positions that are just bad. He had some problems with Hikaru in the first round. He was able to equalize. He had some problems against Anand. He was able to equalize. He survived against Svidler. But the one time that he had a winning position, not just a little bit better, just clearly winning position, was against Vesely and Topalov.
And this game, which I brought up on our screen, it started extremely slowly. Truthfully, we were being bored to death. Nothing was happening. Everything was just, pieces were getting traded, players were fighting for a square, and it looked like this game at this point was pretty much drifting towards a dead draw. However, Vesely managed to create some energy, not necessarily for himself,
but that's such a Vesely thing to do. He creates passion in the position even if it backfires badly.
Exactly. And so he basically encouraged White to put a pawn on d5, pressed him down, and suddenly it was White who was breaking through on the queen side, and
it was around this moment.
Was big time move.
We're in some time pressure, and it is true that both sides were low on time by this point. It is move 38 right here after knight takes d6.
Right.
But it was enough time for him to calculate. The game continues. Knight takes h3 check, queen takes h3, and rook f6. And here,
he found the easy winning move. Knight c8. He's a full piece up.
But
Queen
I think
drop back to d6.
yes. Sir.
And now the simplest of simple moves. I mean, when you look at black's position, you say
Right.
to yourself, okay, he's doubled on the 8 on the f file. There's some counterplay against f2. Let's just take the rook. By the way, this was time control already.
it was time control.
Rook takes f6, queen takes f6. Now with a double attack against the rook on b1, as well as the pawn on f2, the simple of simplest moves was rook b2, and you can resign.
And
You're
there's
full piece down.
Right, there's this little trick that maybe Caruana missed. It's unclear what it is that he didn't see. Bishop f5 looks like it's a move.
Until you see the obvious.
Queen takes
Take it. Take it, and now the family fork. Knight e7 check, and that would have been the score sheet side. Game.
White emerges, up a piece, that would have been game over. Rook b2 is basically what black resigns.
Exactly. Instead of the very straightforward rook takes f6, rook b5, a move that you really wouldn't have considered. Rook f2, and why mix it up in this fashion? Now you're in a major piece ending. Maybe you're winning. Maybe is it? But after rook c6, I'm sure Fabi had calculated this moment. He probably saw rook c6, and something just turned off. He said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm winning. I'm just going to take the pawn on c5. I got 2 connected passed pawns. So simple until you see the counterplay with e4." And Veselin ended up saving this difficult ending and ruining
Caruana, he could
a
be
victory.
definitely- No, absolutely. A big, I think that was one of the key moments of the second round.
Yeah.
But okay, before we go into more games, we do have a caller.
Oh,
we
wonderful.
have apparently an interesting question for Mr. Eric Hansen, I'm being told. So, hello. Yeah, what is your
Hello.
call?
Hi, my name's Jessica, and I have a question for Eric.
Jessica, go
I
ahead.
wanna
Eric,
know-
Eric can't hear, but we'll relay it to
Yeah.
him.
Okay, I just want to know, how tall is Eric, and how much does he bench press?
Eric, the fan wants to know how tall you are and how much do you bench press. This is a critical chess question.
Really?
We're not kidding, that's a question.
That is the question. That was just asked.
Okay, well, between 6'1" and 6'2", and I bench 225 pounds.
Pretty good.
So-
Pretty good.
That's
Oh,
that.
sexy, thank you.
We're in awe.
She said it was sexy.
I think Jessica's in awe as well, Eric. Nice. Nice.
What is the show coming to, guys? What is the show
This is our
coming to?
premiere.
Yeah, this is our premiere show.
You're trying to get me to blush?
I think she is. I actually think she is. Well, could we get to a chess position, though? I'm sorry.
A big question for me. Sorry, guys. Let me just jump in. I'm still confused. I thought Peter Svidler had the position ice cold won about 5 moves before they agreed to a draw. Why did these guys agree to a draw in that position that they achieved?
I think it was frustration, honestly. I mean, I've had the pleasure of meeting Peter Svidler and getting to talk to him quite a bit. And interestingly, I did commentary with him in Qatar, and he is a person that gets frustrated when he misses things during commentary.
Okay.
Like, imagine him missing things over the chessboard. I think he's just really harsh on himself. I think he was just not objective. I think that he could have tried harder. I think the game would have ended in a draw anyway because Karjakin is such a good defender. And honestly, the position wasn't yielding that much. But I think most of us would have played at least a couple more moves.
Do you agree then with the Sophia rules that the players shouldn't be allowed to offer draws? Because that position, I'm telling you, I'm not sure Magnus wouldn't still be playing it.
Well, those I think are different topics, of course. My views on the Sophia rules and draws in general in chess, that can be for some other show because I have my own radical points of view of that.
All right.
But as far as the actual position and which
Right.
players would have pressed on, I think several players would have pressed on. Maurice, what do you think?
I agree. You've got to win these games. There's just the way it is. You have to win when you play chess, and you've got to press on the way Magnus does is just typical of a champion. I just want to, before we get to that a little bit greater, this game reminded me of something, the one you just brought up about Fabiano. In this position, when he could have taken on f6, this combination, queen takes, bishop f5, right? Rook b2, then bishop f5. And he still had to see it coming. And then in this moment, the idea that you can take on e7 and take, and then suddenly knight to e7, check. The knight coming from in the position from c8 to e7. Not something that happens every day. A knight sitting on the back rank in a position. But in a huge game that I'd like to bring up, the game from Millionaire Chess Open, this game a couple of years ago in 2014, this position occurred with Ray Robson playing against Yu Yang Yi. And right here, they were all calling this over. I remember the commentator saying this was dead. And Yu Yang Yi had the combination to play on the board. The move rook takes f5 could have been played. And then after queen takes on f5, check this out. Queen takes g8, king takes, and that same knight sitting on e7 comes back and picks off e7 and then picks off a queen sitting on f5. But he missed it as well. So this idea of the retreating knight is not something you see every day. You don't often get your knight to c8. You don't often get this sacrifice and fork. It's a bit more, you might say, a little more complicated here, but I don't think so. I think both, you're talking about two star players, Yu Yang-yi from China, who's now one of the top 30 players easily in the world, and, of course, Fabiano Caruana, missing this idea of the knight retreat with a sacrifice. And I think it's one of those moves that grandmasters sometimes miss. It looks easy to us sitting on the side and you got an engine running, but when you're in the heat of the battle, backwards chess is not what you notice too easily. And you remember the same thing happened to Kramnik against the computer when he was playing it. There was a knight on f8 and he missed queen h7 mate, missed the idea that there was a knight guarding the h7 square, a white knight guarding, and again, backwards. It's just not a move that players often see, and even star players miss these kinds of moves.
Yeah, we actually have another caller with a question regarding Magnus Carlsen and the upcoming World Championship in New York. Hello?
Hello. Oh, I want to say great show. Great show.
Thank you.
I'm old enough to remember the 72 match. I'll be 60 this year. And I run we have small tournaments here in upstate New York. Hello, Ashley. Maurice I saw at Millionaire Chess. He runs a good tournament. I'm looking forward to the shot this is going to give U.S. chess. With the media capital of the world in New York, and Magnus Carlsen being young, is probably going to be a fairly young player as his challenger. I'm looking forward to the shot in the arm that this needs for U.S. chess. And I was just wondering what you guys thought about that.
The question is, will this match in New York be the boost that we experienced in 1972? And will it give U.S. chess a shot in the arm and chess worldwide?
Well, comparing it to 1972 for me would be impossible.
Of course, that was just a minimum moment.
That wasn't even planned back then. But, I mean, how can it not be a boost for us?
Absolutely.
We got the World Chess Championship in New York. Magnus Carlsen, the superstar of the chess world. He's coming in. He's going to be playing. It doesn't matter who he plays. He's going to be playing somebody interesting.
Without question.
He's either going to be, kind of a Western against Russia type of match, or it's going to be the whole of Armenia basically coming in together behind Aronian, or it's going to be Fabi coming in with America against Norway. It's going to be a fantastic challenger. I don't think it matters who it is. I think for the remaining ones, it's going to be great.
Could I interject there? I think, though, of the 4 of the 5, the caller made a very interesting point. It will probably be a young player. Right? How many World Championship matches can you think of that both players were under 30? Have we had one? I'm just trying to think about it.
Bobby was 29 and Boris was 30.
Boris was already in his 30s.
Boris was in his 30s. I think Bobby was 29. But good point.
When have we ever had that? That's incredible.
When
both players were under 30 years old. You can't say, Anand got a little bit older. If only the tiger from Madras or Chennai, I guess, was still in form. This young punk wouldn't have had a chance. Karpov against Kasparov, he was 10 years older. So again, that's not him in his prime. But here you have Magnus, who's turning, is it 26 this year? And then who else? You might have Fabi, who's younger than him. Karjakin, same age. Aronian, of course, could make that not the case, given that he's in the first right now as well. But you have those, and Geary, 3 out of the top 5 under 30 years old. And even if he is over 30, Aronian definitely still sprightly, still young, and still playing great chess. I do have to make a slight disagreement. I think that most people have seen enough of Anand versus Magnus. Anand is a great player. He's a 5-time champion. Love the guy. Big fan. And if he wins, he totally deserves to play Magnus. But I think, really, most people would rather not see that match. Just speaking as a fan, I think most people would rather not see that matchup.
I probably agree with you.
Not the Indians, though. Of course, all the Indians are like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
1 billion of our viewers.
Get him. Disagree with that.
We just lost 1 billion fans.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Or at least they all hate me. but I just think in general, as much as that is the case, and that is true, again, 1 billion fans waiting for Anand to do it, and he's a fantastic player. He's had a great run, and he could still win this tournament, no question about it. He's shown the intestinal fortitude to win the big matches. There's no question about that. Anand, if he wins, I'm not even surprised. I'm not even blinking in surprise because he's just such a great player. But I got to say, it's probably not the marquee matchup if you put the check marks off of who the general fans want to see play against Magnus.
I wanted to interrupt because you were wondering who's under age 30 with the last match. I want to get a chess history question right ahead of Yasser and you, seeing I'm not very cultured.
Please.
Short Kasparov were both around 29, no? 1992?
1993.
They were both under
1993.
They either must be 30 or 29.
I think Nigel was a few years younger for sure.
Yeah,
that's Isn't Kasparov 1964?
You're right. No, Kasparov is 63.
So
Kasparov was He's April of 63.
April 13.
And the match was played in 93.
Right.
The match was played in 93, not 92.
Okay.
So it's possible that Gary was, and I don't think it was played in the early
was
part of
older
the year.
than 30.
He was definitely.
Oh, okay. So
he just turned 30.
So 30
he just turned
20,
30.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. I was close.
Very good. Don't try
Very good,
to upend us.
You're absolutely right.
Good try. But that was close.
Those were two of the youngest guys ever.
Two of the youngest. That may have been the youngest World Championship match ever.
Right. But I would, well, personally, again, sorry to speak chauvinistically as an American, I think it would be great to see Fabiano, and you're right, those are the two young faces of the world of chess. And I think for the public, the great unwashed public, I mean, they would be shocked that it's not an old man's game with, gray beards, but really youthful, energetic, intriguing young men playing for the World Championship. I think that would be the best matchup for the public, general public. And the same thing goes for Sergei Karjakin. A lot of Russians would be behind him. Yeah.
But let's see how they get there. Let's see, first of all, what they have to do tomorrow. We have very important matches coming in tomorrow. Veselin Topalov will be playing against Peter Svidler. I don't think this is going to be the focus of anybody tomorrow. Veselin Topalov just trying to gain some points. Svidler trying to feel better about his tournament right now.
Look at that matchup on board 2.
Vishy Anand against Levon Aronian. Vishy Anand being white. If he wins, he overtakes Aronian. He leapfrogs over the Armenian. A huge matchup. And of course, Anish Giri, the most solid player in this tournament, desperately looking for a win to get back into contention of actually challenging Magnus Carlsen. He needs to start winning games. He cannot afford to draw anymore. He plays Fabiano Caruana, who says, hey, you want to take risks? That's okay with me, because I also need those points. Hikaru Nakamura will be playing against Sergei Karjakin. Karjakin with black. We expect probably a solid performance from him, trying to defend what is currently the lead that he has with the Aronian. Very exciting games tomorrow.
Hikaru can play the role of a spoiler like nobody else, by the way. And Hikaru will be remembering that horrible move, knight takes g3, a combination that just boomeranged against him. And Hikaru, boy, he could really upset the apple cart tomorrow if he were to put together one of his best games.
Yeah, Hikaru, who has a very good score against Sergei Karjakin on +3. We're seeing here in the graphic 7 wins, 4 losses, and 15 draws. It's a lot of draws, though. He's going to be playing against Sergei Karjakin, who defeated him in the first half of the tournament. I think that was a very important game psychologically for both players. Sergei Karjakin saw himself actually winning games. Hikaru Nakamura was already in bad form. He had an unpleasant position that we can actually take a look at very, very soon. And it was Karjakin that converted.
By the way, now that you mention it, one of the things that really does deserve mention was that Sergei Karjakin, something like 25, or it might have been 26 games, had never taken the measure of Vishy Anand and he broke Vichy in this tournament. And talk about a big boost that must have been for Sergei-Karjakin, because coming into the event, he probably was thinking to himself, man, that guy just hates my guts. He keeps blocking me. And that was a big breakthrough for Sergei.
That was absolutely huge. And we're being told that we actually have a relatively important caller.
Okay.
As I believe Rex Singfield is on the line with a question for us.
Rex.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello, Rex.
Hi, I want to compliment you guys on a spectacular show. Everything from the graphics to the presentation to the commentary, it just has exceeded all of my expectations. It's incredibly good. I know right now that ESPN is sitting in New York full of envy and rage. What a great job you guys have done.
Well, thank you.
And the only minor thing I would suggest is that as wonderful as all four of you gentlemen are, none of you are as attractive as Jennifer Shahade.
I don't know. Eric's got
Did you hear how much Eric can bench?
Eric can bench press 225.
Yeah, I know. You're trying to play to my Canadian genes. Anyway, I do have a serious question, and that is, of all of these 8 players in the candidates, which one has the most victories against Magnus Carlsen?
Well, the question is, out of all the 8 candidates, which one has the most victories against Magnus Carlsen? And even though I think Geary is the only one that has a plus score, he only has 1 victory.
That's right.
Most victories, I think, goes to Fabiano. I might be wrong on that.
It could be Aronian as well. I thought Aronian had won 6. I don't know if Fabiano's won that many. He hasn't lost as many as Levon has. I think Levon has lost 11. We'll get our statisticians to come up with that, as well as our viewers, by the way.
Yeah, you can feel free to commentate. But we'll have our statistician work on it. We'll have that in just a second.
You think it's Fabi? I think it's Levon.
What about you guys?
I think it's Levon as well, only because he has had a lot more time. They played a lot more games, and so I think it is Levon, but I'm not 100% sure. But Fabi has also come on in recent years.
Right.
It's funny, these one-to-one matchups. You know, a match for the World Championship title is really a clash of 2 personalities. It's how you do against a person, right? That specific person. We talk about Nakamura versus Carlsen. Despite the fact that Nakamura is a fantastic player, this guy is clearly one of the world's best. Everybody else, he's not afraid at all. Karjakin better be scared tomorrow, because Naka, when he's confident against somebody, he plays like a genius. And he'll look at Karjakin and say, I beat you 7 times. I can beat you tomorrow, and I need to beat you tomorrow. So Karjakin has to really be watchful. That confidence that Nakamura has. Of course, he lost today, so he's not happy at all. We'll see how he comes roaring back. But when he matches up against Carlsen, totally different story. You look at Fabiano versus Naka. Naka has had a great score against Fabiano historically, and he always felt like Fabiano, just was like his boy. That's like, I beat him all the time. However, things kind of flipped at the showdown in St. Louis, where Caruana changed the tune a little bit and showed what he had against Nakamura, even in blitz, which was a shocker for us. But Fabi versus Magnus, it's like, I got this guy. He's good. Remember that time he beat Fabi? Was it here I think it was here at the Sinkfield Cup, that lucky win. Was it the win?
Yes.
Was it at the Sinkfield Cup or was it in Norway? Yeah, with the Rook move. I mean, Fabi was all over him, and he had to come back and win. And also, he beat, when Fabi won that great Sinkfield Cup and went 7-0 to start, he was showing Magnus some things there as well. So that's a serious matchup. If you want to put it to you, you're right, Yaz. I think Fabiano, it's going to be here in New York. He's a Brooklyn boy. I know he's born in Florida, but he came to Brooklyn. He lived in my neighborhood, Park Slope. He's a Brooklyn boy, and he's going to play in New York City. There's going to be so many stories written about that. And playing against Magnus, the 2 young guys, 25 years old. Well, Magnus will be, I think, turning 26, but Fabi's still younger. That'll be crazy to see that generation play a World Championship match. That, I think, will be a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, Rex, for joining us here
with
the commentary.
Absolutely.
And actually, I was thinking about my answer, and this might sound silly.
No taking your moves back.
This might sound silly, but what about Anand? How many times has Anand beaten Carlsen? Because we have to remember, these guys have been playing since like 2005.
Exactly. I think Vichy won a number of games early in their career.
Early in their career, I can think Morelia. I mean, there were several games.
When Magnus was. But then when the World Championship, one game.
One game
out of these what was it, 24
That's
or
a lot of
something?
games.
Yeah, a lot of
Let's
games.
not remind Vichy or their Indian viewers
Yeah.
who are not liking us so much anymore.
You know, one of the weirdest things about the premier top events that I've noticed, Sinkville Cups, Norway, you name it, it's weird how last round matchups, it's almost like a Hollywood scriptwriter has gotten two of the leaders playing each other in the last round. I cheated. I looked ahead to round 14, and I saw a round in round 14 that is a pretty juicy round. Sergei-Karjakin, in the last round of the candidates, will have the white pieces against Caruana. And could that potentially be the game that would determine the challenger?
Well,
something about these
something
last
around round
rounds.
14, but we've
yeah.
had such drama. I mean, we can take a look back at the candidates where it was Carlsen that won that candidates. Wow, was it a dramatic final?
Losing the final game against Peter Svidler.
Against Peter Svidler, who's here in the tournament. He's shown time and time again, even if the tournament's over, because Svidler, at that point, he wasn't playing for anything.
So guess what? You might even say that it was fortunate for Magnus that he actually became the challenger. If Vladimir Kramnik hadn't gone hog wild trying to win the final game with the black pieces against Vasily Bonchuk, both those players lost, and by virtue of the better tiebreak, Magnus Carlsen emerged as the challenger.
That's right. No, definitely crazy rounds, and wow, round 14 is going to be...
Sorry for sneaking ahead.
For sneaking ahead, but that's going to be just such a huge round, in my opinion. A lot of important games going on, but Karjakin Caruana being the final, it just seems like that would be an awesome way to finish the tournament, going into round 14 with everything to play for.
Because there's just a little lull, I want to ask our panel, time control. I don't like this three time controls. Of time control, you have to move 40, you have to move 60, and so on. Why does FIDE have so many different time controls? What's going on here, guys?
Well, let's see the time control they have right now. 100 minutes for first 40 moves, 50 minutes for the next 20 moves, 15 minutes for the rest of the game. Yasser, it's true. I don't play as much chess as I used to. I think years ago I considered myself more a professional chess player. I'm doing other things now, St. Louis University, commentary. That being said, I've never played a tournament with this time control. It hasn't happened here. It hasn't happened in Europe, not the World Cup, not the US Championship, not anything. I cannot think of any tournament that uses this time control.
Right.
So what's going on?
I don't get it either. It's just so strange to me, and the players have to adjust their game each and every time. And I think this is a confusing time control for just general spectators. Where does this 30-second bonus? You say the guy's in time trouble, he makes 2 quick moves, and suddenly he's out of time trouble.
Right.
It's a very, very confusing time control. How about yourselves, Maurice,
Well, I
Eric?
hate this time control. I mean, I can't stand it. Anything that has increments, and the spectators, I think the tendency should be towards limited time, but everybody wants that pure chess, make sure there are no blunders and time pressure. You see the best games. But I think you've seen other time controls do just fine. So, no, I'm not a big fan of the time control, but at least we have enough games. I think that's the best part. We have enough games to sink our teeth into when the games are in progress. Although we're not calling the games live either. So, of course, there are the broadcasters calling them live. It's easier to do them in post the way we are right now. But in terms of a live game, I just don't really appreciate the 30-second increments and long games that might go on for 7 hours.
I mean, I prefer faster time controls myself, so I wouldn't object to that. But right now, I'm pretty happy with the increased, blitz and rapid events going on in chess. But I do agree with Yasser that it's a bit confusing with all these new time controls. I recently played a tournament where the classical FIDE time control was 1 hour 15 minutes, and it's gotten shorter and shorter. So yeah, it's hard to keep track, and it'd be nice to see a bit more of a universal system going on.
I want a universal system that cuts the tournaments in like half. I mean, this is way too long. I've always been of the opinion that classical chess, it needs to
speed up.
Well, it needs to say goodbye. It needs to pack its bags, save it for the past.
You're going to angry sponsor Gary Kasparov on this one.
And you just call it rapid, right? You just you don't have to cut it. You just call it rapid and just start pushing more rapid events.
I think that's where it needs to be headed. I know a lot of people have arguments against it, and they're good arguments. There's a lot of people that say the quality of the chess goes down. And I agree. Quality of chess will go down. I just
But
say,
the
I don't care.
players will adjust to that, too.
The players will adjust. The players will be more comfortable with the time control. It's much more viewer-friendly. I don't have to sit here for 9 hours to figure out what happened in the chess game. I know that I'm going to sit down during my lunch break, and the game will be done.
Right. Guys, I've had a long discussion with Silvio Danilov, a longtime manager of Vessel and Topalov, who has had a lot of experience organizing events, and he has made some really wonderful arguments with me about what he thinks is the best time control for what we might call classical chess. His argument was 2 hours per player, full stop, end of story, use your time as you see fit, no increments, no bonus. And I said, yeah, but that might reduce the game to a time scramble. He said, wonderful, that's dramatic for the players. If Alexander Grishuk wants to spend an hour and 56 minutes on his first 14 moves, that's his choice. He's going to get punished for misusing his time. So his recommendation was 4-hour time control, full stop, end of story.
And what's funny is that sounds, you're saying it's like it sounds exciting, like 4 hours.
Yeah.
It's 4 hours.
It's 4 hours.
Like, who watches anything for 4 hours?
Me.
Well, exactly. I'm sorry, yes, but not these 20-year-olds next to us. 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. When I watch a chess game or a tournament like this one, I turn it on at some point, maybe 2 hours in. Or maybe I'll come in at an hour. I might leave it on. I go do some stuff. Come back an hour later. A couple of moves have been made, 3 or 4 moves have been made. And you say, okay, this is what's going on now. Oh, what happened here? You catch up real fast. And then you go about your business again. And you may not even come back to the game. I know there's some fans who have 5 hours because of maybe their job allows them to do that. But how do you focus on the game and the commentary all that time? I think it's very hard. And so chess, much like poker doesn't try to do anything live. You could not watch poker live. You'd cry the 12 hours they're going every day. And the long time they spend analyzing situations. They cut it down to an hour show, and it's like bing, 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 highlight moments, best things, similar to what we're doing here. The idea of watching anything, who has time? You'll never, ever broadcast anything on ESPN and say, we've got this great 4 or 5 hours of chess. Not a chance. That will never happen. I'm not even sure which TV station you could go to that would allow that.
Well, Maurice, do you agree that if we want to get faster time controls, it has to start from the top? I mean, if the World Championship is still decided by classical and it has all that prestige, I mean, people want to practice classical. Everyone has that dream. So it has to start from the top. It's like Magnus Carlsen has to be like, put me in a knockout tournament where I can lose my title, but also quicker time controls. I mean, that's still, as long as that's the only, I only see it working from the top down, and then people will start to appreciate it more.
But again, if you want to broadcast it, I think even if you argue, let's have classical games, if you want to broadcast it in a massive way, to a mass audience, it probably just can't be done live. I mean, that would be your solution. You probably just can't do it live. You'd have to figure out how to do it another way. Or if you do it live, you do it for the specialty crowd. But if it's going to be the product that ends up on a big channel, then that's not going to be where it goes.
Right.
We just say, listen, if you want to see it in that way, we'll abbreviate it. We'll cut the show down to an hour, and we'll do a great show. And that'll be the hour. It'll be great chess. The diehard fans who want to see long games, they'll watch them anyway. But if you want to broaden the appeal, you edit it down to a great package, and then that'll be watchable.
I got to play the devil's advocate, my man Maurice, because you and I know it so well. We did a World Championship match in 1995, commentary, but I still remember the Garry Kasparov Deep Blue matches that we did together in Philadelphia and New York. And the CEO, I think his name was Ed Geffner, he came up to us after the show, and it was a 5-hour game, and he said this was the greatest show on Broadway. I mean, we had a 5-hour game, and I remember those World Championship matches in New York in 1990 between New York Leon, Garry Kasparov, and Anatoly Karpov, where we had packed audiences, and they were playing 6 hours and adjournments, and those matches were really great. I'm just saying, let's cut it back to 4 hours and see what kind of product we can put out there.
But look, even as correct as you are, we're great commentators. We make anything exciting. But look, even if that's true, even though that was true, first of all, man versus machine, I mean, come
That
on,
was great.
You're fighting the Terminator. We're going to watch that for 6 hours. That's compelling. It's very hard to get that on a regular basis. The World Championship match with Kasparov was epic, but it wasn't televised, right? We know we had the audiences, but it wasn't televised. The question would be, how do you televise this product? Is it going to be 6 hours? I know Norway, they do slow TV. Good for them. It's amazing that they do that. We're not going to do that in the U.S. No. Slow TV? People can watch 8 shows by the time we finish a chess game. And even if it's sports, 2.5 hours, maximum 3, it's within a certain window. Until chess is like stratospherically interesting and a mass audience, if that's what we're going to do, we're going to like get everybody so interested in chess that they have to have their chess every minute, every day, every second, them just sitting there thinking, you're just not going to sell 4 hours of television time. It's just not real. Let's just be realistic. I don't think it's real.
Totally agree. Let's pull the conversation back and throw it out to our viewership. We'd like to take a poll. So get your answers to us by the time we get on the show tomorrow. And what do you guys think would be the ideal time control, the standard that classical chess should follow globally? Should it be a 4-hour contest, a 5-hour contest, or, as the youngsters would say, speed it up even further than that?
Well,
back to the games. Where do we stand now?
And if you want to participate in the poll, we have on Twitter, you can follow us, #TodayInChess, and of course at the St. Louis Chess Club.
I see that caricature on your screen. What? Okay. Yeah.
So,
sorry, once again, the hashtag is?
#TodayInChess.
Today in Chess.
Yes.
All right. All right. And I think this is a conversation we're going to be having until somebody takes a very firm stand. And I think here in St. Louis, where we've been doing so many innovative stuff, I'm going to talk to Rex and say, Rex, take a look at that Sinkfield Cup. We don't want to do 7-hour broadcasts. We want our audience to be with us from start to finish.
I think this year is going to be great because we're going to have a compare and contrast. We're going to see the Sinkfield Cup, which everybody loves, but they're going to be competing in the Grand Chess Tour in 2 rapid and blitz events.
Yeah, tell us about that. That's great. Brussels and Paris.
In Brussels and Paris. It's going to be in June.
Okay.
And we're, of course, going to be providing full commentary for you guys here from the studio. It's going to be the Grand Chess Tour players. They're just not playing classical chess. They're going to be playing rapid. They're going to be playing blitz. And does this count for anything? Yes, it counts for the whole thing. It counts for the points. It counts for the big prize money. This is the tournament. It's just going to be 2 classical tournaments, the Sinkfield Cup
in London.
In London in December. But before any of that kicks off, in June we have Brussels and Paris going on.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I can't wait. I can't wait. Guys, did we find, coming back to you, Maurice?
Yes, we should just update you at least on the other 2 games very quickly. There were 2 draws that were played, one between Levon Aronian and the other one between Viswanathan Anand that we didn't really get a chance to look at because the other games were super critical and we were getting into all that good stuff. But this game had some interest. This game that Aronian played against Giri, of course, it was an important game for the standings as well, given that Aronian was in a tie for first, and he had the white pieces here. But breaking down Giri's defense, it just seems like you're trying to break into Fort Knox. I mean, for those of you who don't know Fort Knox, because it's a U.S. building, that's where all the money is. That's where they keep the gold. And the gold is in Fort Knox. You're not getting in there. And Giri is like Fort Knox. You could give him a lot of nicknames. One of them would be Fort Knox. Like, no, you're not breaking down my defense. He just doesn't seem to lose, barely if ever.
No, I think people are looking for players to beat on, and Giri's not one of them. You know, you know what you're going to expect. But they prefer some of the other guys to spend all their energy on. So it was a pretty standard draw. There was a little bit of pressure from Levon. He had some preparation and an idea, but yeah, didn't amount to too much.
Yeah, I didn't see too many exciting moments. I mean, there was a little bit of fizzle that did have a little bit of sizzle that fizzled, if you will, in this game. So that wasn't that interesting. We did think, however, that Anand might have had a chance in his game. That something, especially against tail under Topalov, who seems like he could lose any position these days, at least in this tournament. This one looked like it had something, and then, it didn't look like it had much, but it looks like Topalov said, look, I'm not going to lose this position, sorry. You know,
it's one of those things, you know, I might say Magnus Carlsen, you know, he might win this position, but for the most part, it is hard. Black, preferable, queenside majority, knights are tricky, but Topalov, didn't let this one get away.
Especially Anand with the black pieces. No need to take any inordinate risks at the moment. He's got lots of time to try to win other games as we go on.
I thought he might try to push just because it is against Topalov, who is out of form or a target. But it is his preparation with white and with black. But with white, he's been getting some advantages. So it's understandable that he decided to push a little bit, but not too much. Take the draw, rest up, and go for it tomorrow.
And he's got 3 more whites. We've got 6 rounds to go. So 3 whites to play for and only half a point out of the lead. So no real reason to take too many big risks yet. But we're going to see these matchups get really interesting with 6 rounds. I mean, anybody can make a move, even some of the tail enders in the back. It's only +2 that has the lead. That means 2 wins over even. That's +2. A loss from the leaders and a win from somebody at even, and suddenly it's a tie for first. It's a lot left to play for.
This reminds me of the candidates in London. I mean, the last one, Anand ran away with it. But in London, there was, a few leaders. But in the second half, a few of the tail-enders really made some impact. Ivanchuk, Svidler, they were scoring some wins. So at least I think we're braced for a pretty exciting finish with a pretty cramped at the top.
Speaking of London, Aronian, how was he doing just after the halfway point in London?
He was doing excellently.
He was leading.
Yes.
He finished like half of the pack. Can he actually finish with a strong result here in Moscow, or is it going to be another London for him?
That's a big question that people ask.
Meltdown.
People, you start getting a reputation. The same thing we say, well, Geary, what is he going to do if he's going to start winning so that he can be the challenger? You talk about Nakamura in this kind of situation. His nerves get the better of him. You can say the same thing about Aronian, right? People have that sort of rep. If you're not showing you're a shining star early on, you normally don't become the world champion. It's not many people who end up being the world champion in their mid-30s, and certainly not their 40s, right? In chess history, you normally have the champions being these guys. It's like, that guy's going to be the champion. Right. Look at him. Look at him in his 20s, and he's, get out my way. I'm beating down all the doors, and I'm going to be the champion. I'm the guy you look at. And they're usually in their late 20s, about somewhere around that range, that they finally cement what we expect. Aronian is now in his early 30s, certainly not an old guy by any standards, and a class player, a class act on top of it, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in chess. But he has shown in this moment, for some reason, he hasn't quite gotten over the hump to prove that he should be the guy who challenges Magnus. Remember some years ago, he was 28-30?
Yeah, he was a solid number too, consistently.
Yeah.
Like,
no question.
No question.
No question. Yeah.
No question. He was number 2, and everybody else was back in the pack, and they were like, what happened? And then all of a sudden now, he dropped all the way back, even dropped out of the top 10 for a moment. But he's come back for sure now, and showing that he is a star. We all know he should not be below 2,800. But should he be the one that challenges Magnus Carlsen? That's a tricky question.
We're going to have to see. Let's take a look at tomorrow's games. I want to have the predictions from you guys on every game to see who's right, who's wrong, who knows chess, who knows these players. Let's take a look. Let's start from the very top. Topalov versus Svidler. Eric, what is your prediction here?
I'm predicting a win for Topalov, getting some points on the scoreboard. I mean, how do you feel if you're Peter Svidler right now? He's missing the positions in this tournament and the last big event, the World Cup. I think he's going to lose to Topalov tomorrow.
Maurice, do you agree?
Not at all. I think that Svidler will not lose to Topalov. You ask how Svidler feels, ask how Topalov feels right now. Topalov doesn't care about this tournament anymore. We've seen it before. If he's not playing for first, he is not interested in second, third, fourth. He's been there, done that. He's actually won a world title before. He's only playing for number 1. I think he has no desire to play in this tournament anymore. So I don't know if he'll lose tomorrow, though. I'm predicting a draw in this game.
All right, Yasser.
Draw.
A draw? Straight up. That's easy. All right, I'm going to predict that Svidler wins.
Okay.
He has to win one game. He has to win one game in this tournament. Topalov is not going to come and just try to draw. He's going to play a game. Svidler, he needs to win. I don't think that he feels he's out of it, even if most people do.
Practically.
I think he's still going to try. And that urge that I'm still in it, even if I'm holding on by my fingernails, I think that's going to give him the edge tomorrow.
Okay.
Next up, Anand versus Aronian. Nah, that's a big one.
Big matchup.
That's a big one. Who wants to take the first shot at this?
Yeah, I'll go for it first. I do anticipate a fierce struggle. But both of these guys are just so awesomely well prepared. I think it's going to be a hard-fought draw, but I do expect that it's going to be a hard-fought draw. It could be one of the longest games of the tournament.
Fair enough.
I think they'll come out all guns blazing, absolutely. Anand's going to show us his prep tomorrow. But unfortunately, I think for us as a fan, I got to just pinch my nose again and say, this looks like a drawn paper to me. Aronian's playing very well. I haven't seen Aronian in trouble in the tournament yet. No single game, and I don't expect it to be tomorrow either.
Eric.
I mean, it's tough to go against these guys. I think there will be fireworks and some good prep, but I'm also expecting it to fizzle out and turn into a draw.
I guess that's 4 draws from the commentators. I also expect that.
Sizzle and fizzle.
It'll be an interesting game, but I think Aronian is just too well prepared in this event.
By the way, Aronian's play in the Sinquefield Cup last year was just so phenomenal.
Just phenomenal.
Undefeated, and he really looked good. If he can keep
Continue
that
doing that.
form,
But it's a big matchup. I mean,
without
Anand's going up all out tomorrow. That's going to be key. Let's go into the next game. Giri's going to be playing Caruana. I'll take this one first. Giri's in the game. Draw. Next. You guys.
Maurice?
Looking at this one, Giri's in the game. I mean, if I say anything else, I'd be an idiot. Caruana has the black pieces against Giri. That's got to be a draw. Come on.
I'm actually favoring Giri in this matchup to get a good position. Hikaru got a good position against Fabiano earlier in this tournament, and I can see Giri with probably even stronger prep get something, and Svidler as well. So I'm going to go for a win for Anish here. Wow. Finally getting his typical +1/+2. This is his win.
I'm going to go for the draw.
Okay. 3 draws. Nobody.
Don't beat me up, guys.
And finally, in the game between another important game, Hikaru Nakamura, psychologically very difficult to play against him, and Svidler-Karjakin, he needs to hold at least a draw. He wants to keep that top position he has right now. Eric, what's your prediction here?
I'm going to try to save some face and hope Hikaru scores the win here and gets close to 50%. I got a win for Hikaru.
Tough situation to call. Karjakin has had the silver star so far over his head. He's been very fortunate. But Hikaru, when he's confident against someone, he tends to show it. And I think that because of his plus score against Sergey and the fact that he really needs to save face, I think I'm going to go with Hikaru, maybe just because he's the American player here and I want to see him win a game. But I'm going to go with him as my prediction for the win tomorrow.
I can't believe it. I think we're all, I'm in agreement. I see a wounded beast, desperate to perform well, and I'm seeing Hikaru winning tomorrow in a key game.
All right, I'm going to go against the panel. I'm going to say Hikaru's going to try super hard tomorrow. It'll backfire. Karjakin's going to have a better position, and it'll end in a draw.
And you're taking the ice bucket challenge in case you win.
Well, that's pretty much everything we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back tomorrow at noon Central Time with more information from the tournament. We'll have more highlights, more top moves from the event, and of course, the results and analysis of the key games tomorrow. Join us then.
Great time.